I'll tell you what, man, it's cold out here. Man, I appreciate y'all joining me on this beautiful sunny day in Houston. Man, I tell you what, man, I'm not used to this cold though. Man, I tell you what, man, something's been just aching inside of me as of late, and telling me that I need to spread my testimony. And I'm to a point where if this even helps one person, I give all praise to the Lord for that. Even me being able to have the confidence to talk about something as vulnerable as this, I praise God for that, because me even 6 months ago, I would have not been where I am in my journey to be able to even talk about this, And I'm aware, this story isn't as grandiose as some of the stories you hear online, but it just goes to show you how perfect God's timing is. Without him, we would be nothing. I've been in Houston for about 2 years now. I used to live in South Carolina all my life. Growing up as a kid, my family had religious views. My mom was very religious. My dad, he was religious as well. We were very on and off with the church. Like we would go to church some weekends and then not go for months. So it felt off-putting when I would go because I didn't really understand anything. And I feel like that's a common theme when you're hearing these testimonies. And it made me realize that as a kid, it's good to be raised in that stuff, but you don't really understand its importance until later on. You never understand its importance until it's your time. So as a kid, I didn't understand any of the stuff that was going on, man. I didn't pay attention. I couldn't pay attention. I was very hyperactive. I struggled to focus. And then on top of that, it just didn't make sense. I didn't understand the importance of a guy named Jesus dying on the cross for me. It just ain't make sense. And, fast forward, throughout my teenage years, I'll be the first to admit I was introduced to pornography way too early. And that, I feel like that's a common theme for a lot of young men and even women nowadays. The world's very sexualized and it's almost celebrated. And the way that it's accessible is just way too easy. And women are objectified, and in a way, so are men. We're all reduced to just sex objects. And unfortunately, I got exposed to that way too young. I remember seeing my first pornographic video when I was a kid. I'm not going to say where or how. And ever since then, it really obscured me. I didn't realize that at the time, but it did traumatize me in a way. It kind of grew into a point where, I was watching, pornographic videos multiple times a day. Throughout my teenage years, it was really taking a toll on my mental, and I didn't even realize it. I'm sitting here serving lust, and I didn't even know it at the time. And I'm sitting here wondering why I don't have energy for anything, why I don't have friends, why I don't have this, that, and the third like everybody else, being envious of everybody else. But I'm sitting here, expending my energy multiple times a day. So I'm going throughout my teenage years like this, not really understanding the significance and building up resentment for my peers around me because I don't have what they have and I can't figure out how to get it. I can't interact properly. I can't do a lot of these things, and a lot of that does have to do with, my parents, being on and off, my parents going through a lot of different issues, living in separate households, traveling from school to school. I recognize now how much that really affected me. A lot of those issues growing up really caused me to mistreat the first love of my life. I really took something that was supposed to be special, that God had gifted me. This girl, she would follow me, to the ends of the earth because she loved me so much. And I broke her down to a point where I broke her heart. Like, I really broke her heart, man, due to my sins and my transgressions that I didn't even know of at the time. All I knew is that I had a thirst that I needed to satisfy, and I was the cause of that, man. So fast forward years, after we break up and I'm just going through a cycle of just self-destruction. I'm spiraling. I pick up weed. I get addicted to weed. I don't care what anybody says. That stuff is addictive. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care if people say it's harmful or not. The point of the fact is, it takes you out of your right mind. It takes you out of your right mind and distracts you. It keeps you down. I was getting addicted to that. I was drinking. I was partying all the time, man. And on top of that, I was having flings with women I shouldn't even like been involved in, you know what I'm saying? And I think by the grace of God that I'm still clean, I'm still healthy, I'm still that I was brought from that place. But I'm going down this rabbit hole, this rabbit hole. I'm working jobs that don't care about me. I'm working all these things, bro. And I get to a point where I can't do it no more, man. And the crazy thing is, I thought that was my lowest, and it wasn't even my lowest. God hadn't brought me to my lowest yet for me to realize what was truly going on. It was when I moved to Houston. I moved to Houston in May of 2023, almost 2 years. It was a humbling experience, a very humbling experience. You go from seeing your friends that you've really connected with, that you previously thought that growing up in a small town, that's all it was. You go from that to nothing. You move and nobody's hitting you up. You gotta start from ground one, man. That was the hardest moments of my life. Keep in mind, when I moved here, I did have a girlfriend, and she happened to, live about an hour, maybe an hour and some change away from me. You know what I'm saying? I live in Houston. She lives about an hour and some change away. That was the only person I could rely on at the time. Unfortunately, as much as I wish I could blame my problems on her, but I know that's not fair because I caused probably just as much damage as she caused me. But the point of the matter is, it brought me to where I needed to be. After months of dealing with that, after months of calling my mom, my heart broken, just like I broke my first love's heart. I got a taste of that medicine. I got to experience what I did to that person. But I'm glad I did, because that made me realize broken people create broken people. And if I don't take the time to sit back and really work on myself, or at least try to figure out what's going on inside because I felt broken, then it's never going to get better. It's going to keep becoming this cycle. So months go by after we break up, I'm still dealing with so much heartache, so much hurt. I'm struggling to get back out there. I'm struggling to make friends. I'm struggling to do all these things. And it gets me to a point where I'm driving home from the gym one day. I came to the realization that it's either going to be just constant depression, just constant anger, sadness, resentment built up inside of me for the world, or I'm genuinely probably going to self-delete myself. And that was a hard thing to say and come to a realization. And I broke down, man. I was in tears. That was the lowest I've ever felt in my life. Out of all the pain I've ever felt, out of everything I've ever felt, that was the hardest. And I knew right then and there, it felt off, because I've never been that way. I've gone throughout my life, and there's been times where I've done certain things or came close to doing certain things. And there's been a voice inside of my head that has told me, do not do that. Do not give into that. Do not pursue that. Do not do this, that, and the third. And I know now that was God talking within me, because I was prayed over as a child. I was prayed over, man. I feel like all of my life, I've been guided by God. I just didn't know it. But something about that moment in that car, when I came to this realization that the world is just going to be depression for the rest of my life, or else I'm going to self-delete myself, I was like, there's no way. It's like I took a backseat to my thoughts for a moment, and something else was driving me, like driving my thoughts, driving my actions. I'm sitting there crying, man. I'm sitting there breaking down and crumbling as a person. And I swear to you, I don't know how else to say it, but something tapped me on my shoulder, bro, and gave me that other option. They said, Cameron, no, pick yourself up. There's another way. There's another way. Trust me. And I'm at the time, I'm not understanding. I'm like, what do you mean trust me? Like, what does that mean? It's just, and I swear it's like something from deep down inside of me just swelled up, and it just shot to my surface into my throat. And everything got tight, man. It was tight, and I just blurted it out, man. I was like, Jesus Christ, take my life. Jesus Christ, take my life as yours. I give my life to you. Just take the pain away. And I promise you, man, I promise you, no, I literally can't lie about it. It's like, I promise you, it felt like 50 pounds just got lifted off my shoulders. And this overwhelming sense of love and care was washed over me, bro. And like every hair on my body stood up, man. It was scary. It was scary in a way, but I wasn't scared. Like, I felt so much peace. I felt what true peace felt like at that time. I think about it now, and I'm just so grateful, because I think about the things that I was doing back in South Carolina. The times where I would drink and drive, or do dope and drive, man. And the amount of times I should have died. Like, there was one time I wasn't even doing wrong. I just didn't know better. Like, I sat there and got stung by by multiple hornets while while playing airsoft. But the thing about me is I'm allergic to that stuff. So if I get stung by a wasp, a hornet, I start to break out bad. And my friend, he gave me some Benadryl. I took some Benadryl. I took two of them, and I was like, you know what? I'm not feeling good. I really don't want to be out here no more. I'm gonna drive home. I drove home 30 minutes, and that was the scariest moment of my life, because about 20 minutes into the drive, I'm literally passing out. Like, I'm sitting here, I can't even control my own car. Like, I'm struggling to control my own car, man, because I'm about to pass out. And it's by the grace of God that I got home. I'm going like probably 80 on the highway, swerving lanes because I can't keep controlling my vehicle, and I didn't crash, and I didn't die from that. I think about stuff like that, and there's so many stories I could go into, and I just think about that, and I'm like, God really looked out for me, because he loved me so much that he wanted me to get to this point to where I'm broken down as a person, where I can humble myself to accept Jesus, to accept Christ into my life and take control, to where I stop trusting into myself and trust into him. Psalms 34:18, the Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those crushed in spirit. And I realize now that that was me. So I give all glory to God. Don't give up. Never give up. Never let the world tell you that you're not good enough. Never let the world convince you to off yourself or to harm yourself or others because God doesn't love you or you're not worthy of it. That's not the truth. You're worthy of salvation. You're worthy of God's love. He's just calling for you. He wants you, man. So that's my testimony on how I came to Christ.